Hello, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Spencer Penrod. I'm a world builder. I make worlds for stories and games like D&D. I've been doing it for years and have decided to start using some of the skills I've picked up during that time to analyze media. Today, we're taking another look at MILGRAM. We last time just finished the tutorial, as I understand it, where we got a brief overview of the songs we're going to be hearing for all of the prisoners, as well as some dialogue between Jackalope and S, and then S's music video. We've been speculating more and more that things aren't as they seem, and that the purpose of this prison project is not got anything to do with the prisoners themselves and everything to do with S. We haven't quite figured out what the purpose of that is. My current working theory is that S used to be a prisoner and was kind of going undercover to try and learn some things, and it went really poorly. And so they've wiped everyone's memory and put S in charge as a prison guard, mostly based on the undercover music video. There are some points of that I'm not super happy with, that leave some really strange unanswered things, like what's the point of going undercover if the prisoners themselves don't matter? So hopefully we start picking up some more clues to fill in the pieces or come up with a better working theory. We are taking a look at Haruka's trial and music video today, and yeah, hopefully we'll learn some interesting things as we take a look. Let's go ahead and jump into it.
Sate, 尋問を始めよう。囚人番号1番、はるか。
はい。ごめんなさい。
何を謝ることがある？
いや。ごめんなさい。
ミルグラムはお前たち囚人の罪を明らかにし、適切な判断を下すために存在している。そのためにいくつか話をしよう。
はあ。
何？
So, once again, we're seeing really religious language here with them talking about sins. They still haven't ever said the word crime, I don't think. And then passing down judgment is a very religious turn of phrase. So I feel like we're really reinforcing that kind of religious theme to what's going on, putting us in a position of almost religious authority over these people. I'm also wondering what the point of this interrogation even is, if we can just extract their memories. I guess maybe S saw their own music video and realized that it is kind of useless, that you can't take many details from it, because it just is so non-literal. But I do remember Jackalope specifically pointed out that we shouldn't need to do anything like this, because we're able to extract their memories. So it's interesting that we're going against the recommendation of Jackalope for the first time, I believe. And apparently this is something we're doing more because of our own personality and desires, rather than because it's part of the actual MILGRAM process.
尋問と言っても、現段階では手荒な真似をするつもりはないから安心しろ。ちなみに、虚偽も黙秘も認めている。
Let's see. Acknowledge both any falsehoods or reticence. Closely translates to silence. However, the register of the word is far higher than silence would be in English. The implication is that Haruka is unfamiliar with advanced vocabulary. Okay. So reticence doesn't really mean silence. I think what this note is saying is that the Japanese is closer to silence than reticence, which is reluctance to speak, basically. Um, but that it's meant to be a fancier word and above Haruka's pay grade, basically. Interesting translation note, though I don't know if it has any particular meaning just yet.
虚偽黙秘
言いたくないことは言わなくても構わないし、嘘をつきたければついても構わない。
そうなんですか。
ああ、ミルグラムはお前の記憶から直接歌を取り出すからだ。僕はそれを見てお前の罪を判断する。つまりお前がどんな主張をしようと大きな問題はない。むしろ黙秘をした、嘘をついたということ自体がお前が自分の
So it sounds like the point here isn't to get any information from the interrogation by itself, but it's more like we're supposed to compare what Haruka says here to what the music video tells us, and then any discrepancies tell us that there was something that he lied about or something he wasn't willing to speak about, and that tells us that there's something important in those details. It's a clever approach, though I wonder how meaningful it is when the music videos are so artistic rather than straightforward. I feel like it's a lot easier to do this kind of a technique if you can fully trust what you're seeing, but it didn't seem like we could do that with the music video we've seen so far. So I wonder if this is just a flawed strategy, or if maybe there is more to what's going on in S's video than we assumed before. That maybe it's closer to reality than we thought.
罪に対してどういう意識を持っているかを示すことになる。そもそも罪に対して反省しているかどうか、それを判決の基準にするかすら僕次第なのだがな。わかるの？
わかりません。
は？ん？
何言ってるかわかりませんでした。難しくて。ごめんなさい。僕、頭があまり。
はるか、お前年はいくつだ
？17だったと思います。
思います？
いや、自分の年齢に興味なくて。ごめんなさい。
調子狂うな。
So, we are clearly meant to be pretty intelligent. You can tell both from the strategy we're employing as well as like advanced vocabulary words, and we're trying to have a conversation where a lot of meaning is happening in between the lines. Haruka here doesn't seem to pick up on any of it. It seems like he at least is portraying himself as someone who isn't very intelligent. We have trouble adapting to that, it sounds like. And Haruka has trouble just kind of understanding the general thread of what we're saying. I don't know if there's anything we can particularly take away from that at this point, other than whatever they did to wipe our minds doesn't seem to have harmed, like it seems to have taken away memories but not learning. which is something that I imagine would be really difficult. Even if you don't have distinct memories of learning, for instance, the word reticence, um, it still is something tied up in your memory. So it's weird that they have the ability, or maybe not weird, but impressive that they have the ability to scrub memories of events, but not general learning. Um, if my theory is right that they also wiped the mind of these prisoners, I wonder if Haruka is not as unintelligent as he's seeming, but is still under a haze from the process. If that was the case, I would actually think he's one of the more intelligent people because no one else seemed really hazy or affected by it. So for him to still be affected by it would probably mean he had to be the most recent one. And with so many things in this place seeming ordered, I imagine he would be the first one to get wiped. So I would think the reason he would have been wiped recently would be because they needed to do a second pass at it because it didn't work the first time. That is definitely a pretty harebrained theory, though. Not a lot of support for it right now, but I am distrustful that he is as stupid as he seems right now. I feel like it's easy to put on an act and easy to be underestimated if people think you're not intelligent.
続けようか。ミルグラムでの生活はどうだ？
最初はわけわからないし、ちょっと怖かったんですけど、みんないい人なんで大丈夫です。
みんなとは他の囚人連中か？
はい。ユノさんとかマヒルさんとか優しくしてくれます。
少し興味があるな。ハルカの目に他の囚人はどう映っている？
いや、僕なんかがみんなのことを喋るの悪いです。
安心しろ。この部屋での話を他の囚人に漏らすことはない。
はい。
I wonder about that because the layout of this room is pretty open. The doors to the cells are just bars. So it seems like sound would carry pretty well between cells. And if he's saying that people are treating him nicely, actually, I guess they get time outside of their cells. So it could be there when that happens. I wonder how much they got outside of their cells before we came in. Because it sounded like most of that would be determined by our own preferences. Either way, it just seems like sound would carry well enough between cells that we couldn't count on truly private conversations. So far, I guess we haven't actually seen evidence that they can hear other cells. It makes me wonder if there's some kind of sound dampening going on. Or if it's just a bald-faced lie and Haruka is dumb enough to believe it. That's possible, I guess.
何を話せばいいんでしょうか。
そうだな。誰とよく話すんだ？
よく話しかけてくれるのはユノさんとマヒルさんとミコトさん。フータ君も少し怖いけど構ってくれます。ムーさんともたまに話します。
和井や指導は？
大人なんで少し怖いんですけど、二人とも優しい人だと思います。
ことこは？
ちょっと怖いです。
まあ予想通りだ。あとは名前が出てないのはアマネか。
アマネちゃん。
どうした？
苦手なんです。あれくらいの 子供。あまねちゃんはいい子なんですけど、嫌なことを思い出すんで。
大丈夫か？ずいぶん顔色が悪いな。
そもそもあまり僕は人と関わっちゃいけないんです。囚人のみんなとも勘違いしちゃダメなんだ。
なぜだ？好きにすればいいじゃないか。僕は他者との関係の中でこそその人間の本質が見えると考えている。
カシさんにも言えることなんだ。
僕にも。
あまり僕に近づかない方がいい。生まれつき人を不幸にすることは得意なんです。
He said that in his introduction as well, that he has the power to bring misfortune to others. We speculated that maybe it was a hint towards magic being a thing, but no one else seemed to confirm any sort of magic. And the more we learn about this place, the more mundane it seems, except for Jackalope, and the memories, I guess. So I don't think it's something like an actual magic power. He's probably just superstitious. I would like it if it was some kind of actual magic or course or something, because the thought that the closer you get to him and the more you know about him, the more likely misfortune is to come. That's interesting because it would imply some kind of intelligence to that curse or power, or maybe like it just slowly builds up this misfortune energy in people, and the more they interact with him, the more misfortune energy they get, something like that. But again, I don't think it's terribly supported that there's actual magic going on here.
僕を知ろうとすればするほど、きっとカシさんも不幸になる。
はるか。
だって、ごめんなさい、一人でずっと喋って。
続けろ。
いつだってそうなんだ。僕がただ普通にしてるだけなのに全部ダメにしてしまう。カシさんだってみんなだって僕のことを知ったら、僕のしたことを全て知ったら、僕を見捨てるに決まってる。僕は身勝手な人殺しだから。
Okay, so that's our first admission that someone has actually done something. And I don't think I believe it. He says he's a selfish killer, but all of his dialogue is so down on himself, and he seems to believe that he is the cause of misfortune spreading to other people. I think what's likely is that he's had a miserable life. The people in his life have suffered, maybe suffered because of him, but likely just suffered, and he's overly sensitive to it and blaming himself. And then someone died, and he blamed himself for that. Maybe it was manslaughter. Maybe he accidentally killed someone. Maybe... I think it's likely that he had no direct interaction with... nothing directly to do with the kill. I think he's just blaming himself for this, despite it not being under his control. We'll see more, I guess, and I suppose if he is insistent on him being a killer, then it's a little hard to argue that. I just don't really trust his view of reality at this point.
Haruka.
はい。
顔を上げろ。
はい。痛い。何するんですか？
僕は看守だ。今のは囚人に対しての教育的指導だ。許される。いいか、よく聞け。囚人番号1番。何度でも言おう。僕は看守だ。お前の本性を知るのが僕の仕事だ。お前が何者だろうと、お前がどんな非道を働いていようと、全て見届け判断するのが僕の仕事だ。それを言うにこと書いて見捨てるだと。あまり僕をなめるなよ。 お前の罪を知り、お前の罪を許すか許さないか判断し終えるまで、お前は僕の管理物だ。逃がしてもらえるな。
We definitely have some kind of god complex going on here. It feels like this whole language of you are inescapably under my gaze until I find all of your sins and pass judgment. That's well beyond someone who's just guarding or even interrogating and seeking the truth. Like, we weren't like, yes, we finally got a confirmation that we have a killer. I can finally pass judgment. We're like disgusted almost by the easy answer. Like, we don't trust him either. And even if he was a killer, that can't be all of his sins, and we need to know everything because we want to be this kind of omniscient, godlike figure who sees everything before passing judgment. It's a little concerning to have that mindset. I thought initially that maybe they planted some drive into us when they wiped our memory to compel us to perform our job. But I'm starting to think it's more like they found someone with a really twisted personality and are putting them in a position of power and taking away everything that would stop that position of power from going to their head. Because it took like 10 minutes of talking to Jackalope as we walked here for us to go from really hazy, foggy, kind of pretty out of it and submissive almost to someone who is loving the idea of being in charge and taking control of these people's fate.
などと思うな。
看守さん。
ちょっと待て、はるか。何をニヤニヤしている。
ごめんなさい。気持ち悪いですよね。
気持ち悪い。
違くて変な話なんですけど、ちょっと嬉しくて。
嬉しい。
はい。
おかしな話だな。僕が言うのもなんだが、監禁され拘束され、こうして尋問されている。この状況に対して怒りや恐れを覚えるのが自然だろう。そういえばお前は最初からずっとそうだ。塞ぎ込んではいるがミルグラム自体への混乱を感じない。その点はフータやムーの反応の方が腑に落ちるというものだ。
そうですね。フータ君はすごく怒ってますね。
This is him saying Futa got angry. He was the one yelling at us for ignoring rights and stuff, right? Which presumably happened inside their cells, didn't it? Although I think we heard the cells opening before, like at the end of the third video, we heard them opening, which led into us introducing ourselves from the second video. So I guess they're not actually hearing between cells still. I thought this was a point that there's no way this conversation is private, but I guess it's probably not.
怖い。じゃなくて、いや、僕はこのミルグラムでしたっけ？何のためにあるのかとかよく分かってないんですけど、看守さんが自分に興味を持ってくれていろいろ聞いてくれるのはなんだか嬉しかったりします。それがお仕事でも僕のやった悪いことを明らかにするためだったとしてもです。
変なやつだな。 一人目から特殊すぎる。お前は7人目くらいで来るべきだ。この仕事の大変さを今はっきり理解した。
What does that mean, that he should have at least been the 7th person? Is that a cultural thing I'm missing? Or are we just saying that this is too frustrating of a start and we wish that it came towards the end? I'm not sure if there's supposed to be meaning in that statement, or if I'm just missing something obvious.
ごめんなさい。
まあいい。反抗的な囚人よりはいくらかマシだな。ただし、あまり勘違いをするなよ、はるか。僕はお前と仲良くしたくて話を聞いているわけではない。僕の目的はあくまでお前の犯した罪を知ることだ。お前が何をしたのか、なぜ人殺しとなったかを知るためだ。
So, that's weird. That sounds like we have more information about Haruka than we've been shown so far. Because it sounds like Haruka not only has killed, but has killed repeatedly, and then stopped, and only then did we take him in. So, I don't know where we're getting that information from or why we believe that. Especially since I'm starting to think the dialogue about what your sin is, about finding the sins of these prisoners, the reason why it refuses to use the word crime is because they don't actually consider the killing a crime, or rather, they don't care about the fact that killing is a crime. That the murdering isn't why they are here. There's something else, some transgression against what we believe as a prison guard, and that is what's important. Almost like this sounds almost like if he had kept killing, that we wouldn't have had a problem with him, but something about him stopping is what set us off, because there was sin in that, in not staying true to himself, or in some action that caused him to stop. So, yeah, maybe it's just that there's this whole other category of what they are considering right and wrong, and we're trying to match people up to that, rather than specifically trying to figure out what exact crime was committed. Like if, say, Haruka killed his parents, we weren't after trying to figure out who he killed, trying to figure out that it was his parents and why he did it and where he did it. We're trying to figure out something else completely unrelated to the killing, and that's what the sin is. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting now, at least.
はい。
まだニヤニヤしている。
ごめんなさい。
緊張感のない男だ。
An exchange impossible to translate neatly into English. Haruka misunderstands the contextual usage of the verb something. Within the construction, S uses the verb would mean to happen or occur, whereas Haruka comprehends it as to wake or get up, which is the more common usage. Of course, betide and tide aren't homonyms, and aren't even in the same word class. It's the compromise I chose to make. Okay, so when we say, I wonder what will betide you, we're saying, I wonder what will happen to you. And he hears, I wonder what will wake you up.
僕がお前を許さないと判断するだけで、お前の身にどんなことが起きるか。
何か起きるんですか？
さあな。お前は考える必要はない。きっと僕にもな。そうだ。あと一つ言いたいことがある。お前は自分が身勝手な人殺しだから周りと関わってはいけないと言ったな。
はい。
囚人どもは皆人殺しだ。何を遠慮することがある。 あいつらにくらい好きに振る舞えばいい。お前にも分かりやすく言おうか。お前ら全員ダメ人間だ。だから気にするな。
それもそうですね。
おしゃべりの時間は終わりのようだ。恐れることはない。ただお前の記憶を覗かせてもらうだけだ。囚人番号1番はるか。さあお前の罪を歌え。
Okay, so that was a really mechanical sound associated with extracting the memories. So I'm thinking we're leaning towards sci-fi technology rather than magic for sure. We've had a few hints towards that, but I feel like this all but confirms it. We need to keep in mind as we hear the song that it's taken after, like the memories are taken after that conversation, just in case anything about the timing seems to matter. The other notable thing I got from that was that S believes that the prisoners are all killers, and that they're human trash, that they're unredeemable. Yet still we're doing this to find sins and pass judgment on whether they're innocent or guilty. That makes me think that maybe we have proof that they've all killed after all. And it's once again reinforcing the thought of sin as unrelated to the crimes, as something... Maybe it's not even something specific, but sin meaning a transgression against our beliefs and judgments and values. And we're just kind of trying to basically vibe check everyone and see if they are agreeable to us or not. I'm not sure if that's it, though. But I'm starting to get the feeling that they are using sins repeatedly to make it a little more blurry what we're looking for. Maybe because we aren't looking for anything specific in the first place. Let's go ahead and see if we learn anything from the music video. We still see the MILGRAM logo on that perfume, showing us that even if we are back to normal life here, that these memories are deeply affected by his time at MILGRAM. We also see a red sky here. The sky we saw in S's video was normal. So I'm thinking that the red sky is another artifact of MILGRAM that we're seeing in Haruka. I wonder if these people whose faces we aren't seeing are victims of his misfortune. So far we've seen two. One of them looks like a friend here. One of them looked like it was maybe his mom. We're seeing a lot of signs that this is his childhood, with all these crayon drawings and stuff. But I don't know if there's much we can take away from that. It's not building out the world or having anything to do with MILGRAM as much as it's talking about his memories and showing that they're a little fuzzy and associated more with activities that blur together rather than specific moments or people. I think this bunny might have been the one that we saw in S's video. I thought it was associated with that kid. But maybe it's associated with Haruka here because we're kind of viewing his memories as a child. Maybe these kinds of bunnies are just a popular thing and it's not associated with anyone specifically, but I do feel like this is probably meant to tie those 2 points together. I wonder if that texture that was on his hands there and were on the faces of the other people is meant to be blood. Because that definitely looked like he was killing something there. Probably the dog. And the blood got on his hands. And he kind of liked it. Well, I mean, it was interesting, but I have no idea what to make of any of that. He was so just symbolic feeling. And it didn't feel like there were really any details to pick out. It seems like he really despises himself and kind of wants to get rid of who he is. That's kind of what I took away from it. But as far as world building details are kind of at a loss, so it's been enjoyable to watch for sure. Just hard to really take too much meaning. But thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking around. I hope you liked it. I'll see you next time.